Hey, good morning. Welcome back to our shop just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia. Well, today we're going to get back on this telephone bench. Last video we did this repair here where this joint was broken out and took care of that. Today we're going to paint it. There's a lot of controversy about painting furniture. There's different ways of doing it, and I pretty much break it down to three ways. The first way, and one that I don't use very often, is chalk paint. Chalk paint alleges that it goes over anything, sticks to anything. Some of the people that chalk paint don't even bother to clean the piece they're working on. Chalk paint, I know that we looked into actually making it at one time, and I think it has like plaster of Paris in it or something. And it absolutely has to be sealed either with wax or polyacrylic or something when it's done, or water will damage it. I don't use chalk paint much. I know people do. I don't want to comment on it for those that are painters, but it's just not something that we use in this shop very frequently. The next way of painting it is with latex paint, or basically just an interior acrylic latex paint. And the way that I do that, and you've seen that in some of the videos, is I clean the piece, I sand the piece, I prime the piece, I sand it again, I prime it again, I sand it again, I top coat it, I sand it, I top coat it, I sand it, and then if I have to, I'll put on a glaze, and then I usually seal it when it's completely dry with lacquer or polyacrylic. You may find on the internet, or you will find on the internet, that there's lots of disagreements about putting a lacquer over paint, and it will do this, it will do that. In my opinion, in my experience, as long as the paint is thoroughly dried and the lacquer goes on and it doesn't have a lot of retardant in it or a lot of solvent in it, it'll flash off long before it damages it, and the finish is great. I've done hundreds of pieces like that with no problems. And then the third way, and the way that we're going to demonstrate today in this video, is basically just to paint it with a colored lacquer, basically a lacquer paint. In this case, it's going to be a gloss white. I'd rather use satin, but gloss is all I have. I'll gloss white this, and then I will glaze it, and then I'll shoot it with a top coat of satin. That'll tone it down. We're looking for kind of a farmhouse look when we get done. The glaze will look great inside these flutes on the front. It'll look great up in here, and we'll put some glaze on it to kind of tone down the look, and in the corners here, so it'll be fine. To do that, again, the first thing that I do is I clean the piece thoroughly, then I'll light sand it, and then I'll wipe it down with naphtha, and then I'll shoot a lacquer coat, a white lacquer coat on it. If it needs a second coat, I'll put a second coat on it. When it hardens up, I'll glaze it. When the glaze is ready, then I'll shoot a clear top coat over it, and it'll be done. I should be able to knock this off in a couple hours today, and during the dry times I have other chores to take care of, so I'll be in and out of the shop. So stand by. Let's get this old girl painted so we can get her out of here. And just a little bit of a teaser, I have a beautiful mid-century modern dining room set that we picked up last week. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the next project that I'll be bringing to you is me touching that up for sale. It's in excellent shape. I think just some of the chairs need to be re-glued and maybe some touch up and polish, but it's just gorgeous. It's a white furniture set from the mid-1950s. So let's get this old girl taken care of and out of here, and then we'll move on to bigger and better things. So stick with us. light sanded down and wiped off with naphtha. The purpose of that light sanding is to break the old lacquer finish up, makes it a little easier for the new finish to melt into it. Also takes off any oxidation or any dirt that the cleaning may have missed. It's worked well for me. Again, if you look at these techniques on the internet, you're going to get different opinions that you can never shoot lacquer on top of old lacquer and pre-cat won't go on top of nitrocellulose. You know, you just have to make your own decisions based on your own experience and see what happens. But for me, it's worked out well. The other thing that's good when you take the time to do that is you see little spots of dirt, dried food, sometimes glue that you can get scratched off or scraped off and make the finish a whole lot nicer. Well, I lied. I do have some satin white, and I'm happy about that. I've had some questions about the spray equipment that I've used, so I want to take just a second to talk about that. The gun that I use is a DeVilbiss FLG, Frank Lincoln George 4. It's the DeVilbiss finish line. I bought two guns as kits, and they came with 3 or 4 different tips in them, and I just don't remember. But I think I shoot with a 2.2, maybe a 1.8. You can adjust the tips based on the viscosity of what you're shooting. Most guys would say don't shoot lacquer with a 1.8 or a 2.2, it's too big. I just adjust the gun down and adjust how far I hold it away, and I've had good results. Again, it's one of those things you just learn how it feels, and if you need to switch your tips, go ahead, and maybe if I did, my finishes would be better, but this is what I do. I run the lacquer through filters. I buy these off Amazon. These are DeVilbiss as well. And then in my little drawer here, I keep paint can openers. And I've already shaken this up. And then I just pour the lacquer right in here. Now you can get these colors custom mixed. I'm making a heck of a mess here. You can get these colors custom mixed. This is just white. I kind of wish it was an antique white. I probably could put a little black in it to tone it down a little bit. But then anything that I don't use, I'm going to have to either set aside from the project or throw away because I don't want to put the black tinted lacquer back into my white base. So we'll put this on and we'll be able to tone it down a little bit with the glaze, I believe. So let me clean up what I just spilled all over my gun and we'll go outside and we'll start to shoot. Now, one of the things to remember when you're shooting old furniture that hasn't been stripped, you got to worry about silicone. Silicone is an oil. It's present in a lot of the over-the-counter furniture polishes like Pledge. It'll cause your lacquer to what we call fisheye. It basically breaks the surface tension and the lacquer gets spots where it doesn't stick and little moon craters and it looks terrible. So whenever I do this technique, I always wipe down with naphtha because naphtha is an oil solvent, as you know. And then I'll put a mist coat on the piece to see how it does before I put a heavy coat on. If it does show signs of silicone contamination, lots of times you can seal that with a coat of shellac and then go over top of it with a lacquer. Sometimes you can't. Silicone can drive you insane. I had a friend who had a body shop and he would not let anything with silicone through the door. Absolutely not. He says it's just terrible stuff when you're trying to do finishing. So let me get this cleaned up. We'll go outside and we'll shoot the first coat. And we have the second coat on the underside, and you can see how nice that covers. Very nice finish. So there you go. I'll get this flipped over in a few minutes and take care of the other side. Okay, I got a couple of coats on this. I made sure I brought it down and looked at it from different angles. before I brought it in. We're just going to let this set up. It's already dry, but we're just going to let it set up for an hour or so. And then we will lightly glaze any of the places where we have grooves, such as the front of the seat here. And we'll highlight this feature here and see how it looks. So far so good. Okay, we got it all lacquered up. Just took some 4/0 steel wool and very lightly over it to take any of the roughness away without taking off any of the color. So when you feel this, it feels nice and smooth. And if you find any place that doesn't feel smooth, just lightly rub it with a 4/0 steel wool until it does feel smooth. But again, we want to be careful we don't take off too much and wear through the color. You'll find that most of the roughness is going to be, in the back of shells where you had to shoot from a distance, things like that. Okay, she's wiped down. I'm going to blow it off with some compressed air. We're going to move on to glazing. This is the glaze I've chosen. It's jet black finisher's glaze by Mohawk. And when you are glazing, you can put on as much or as little as you want. We're just looking to highlight this piece. So what I'm doing is I've got a chip brush. I just lightly dipped some glaze on it, and I'm going to take it onto the front, and I just take a rag and I wipe it off. And you can wipe off as much or as little as you want, but hopefully you can see how that's darkened this up. The glaze has settled in the grooves and toned down the front of this bench. So let me get to work glazing this, and I'll bring you back when I'm all done, but that's pretty much the technique I'm going to use. I want to show you something about using glaze. You can see back here, I don't like the way that looks. Just take a little mineral spirits, put it on a rag, and it dissolves it right out. And that big blob is gone. All right, let me get back to work. It's been about 10 minutes, and you can see the effect that the glaze has had. I left it in the corners here, a little bit across the top. You can still rub this out, even just with your hand, to smooth it out to get the look that you want. Over here, we've got it in these lines. We've got it in these lines, down inside these corners here. And then in the back you can see we've got it there. And then there's a light coat of glaze pretty much on everything, which tones down the brightness of the white and gives it a more antique or antiqued look that will help it with that country look that we're looking for. Now, the other thing that you can do with that country look is to mildly distress it, and normally in regular wear areas, so you might want to you could take like a razor blade and scrape just that line there, and maybe this line here and here, and along the legs and places where you would normally see wear. That's entirely up to you. I'm probably not going to distress this piece. I'm just going to finish up evening out the glaze, and then we'll let it sit for a couple hours and we'll top coat it. So there you go. Very, very subtle, but it gives it a whole different look. Here it is, all done. My beautiful wife recovered the seat for me. Bring in here and let you see the the effect that the glaze gave it. And I think we got the look we were looking for. So from a $10 piece that didn't sell all day long at the yard sale because no one wanted it, to what I think should be a very, very nice piece for someone to enjoy for a long time. Imagine that at the end of your hall or by your front door. I think that's wonderful. Well, listen, from our shop just outside Kennesaw here in North Georgia, thanks for watching. Best regards. Take good care. We'll see you next video. Bye.